Welcome back to the Shrink Down. Ladies, how are we doing today?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good.
Working. I'm in the office today. Background change.
Ah.
The husband's out of town, so I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. Oh. Okay, so recently we had an episode and we talked about the challenges that boys and young men are facing today. So we thought it made sense to spend a little time looking at the other side. What are girls experiencing today? So, girls, teens, young adults, and talking more about what they're experiencing. And then also, what does the research say about supporting them in today's kind of age and what they're experiencing? But before we get into today's topic, let's do our 4-minute faves. Anybody want to start today?
I'll start us off.
All right.
So I actually can't believe that I haven't talked about this show before. I had to actually go back and check because I love it. So this is a show called Maxton Hall. It's on Amazon Prime. I came across it, I don't know, within the last year and a half. And it just showed up. It was like, hey, based on what you have watched, you might like this show. So I started it and it's in German. So I sort of was like, oh, because I actually had to switch it because I first was like, why are their lips not matching up? Because it was
Oh,
they were it was dubbed. And I was like, oh, it's because it's a German show and it was in German. So I switched it because I like to actually listen to the actors speak their native language and then just read the subtitles. So I fell in love with the show. It was only 8 episodes. It's fairly short. And then it clearly had like there's going to be more. And then just recently, within the last 2 weeks from when we recorded this, the next season dropped. So it's based on a book series and it's a trilogy. So it's Maxton Hall, and then it's Save Me is the first book, Save You is the second book, and then Save Us is the third book. It is set in a prep school in England, in this like very like castle-like school, and it has a very, very wealthy man, very hot man. His name is James Beaufort. And then a poor, I mean, it's very like old school poor girl who's like there on a charity scholarship, and her name is Ruby, and Ruby comes across this like scandal going on that involves James's sister, which then puts them together, and James is trying to buy her off, basically, to not say anything, which she wasn't going to say anything anyway. But then they become enemies, and then of course enemies into something else. The show is actually so good with acting, which even ramps up this season, with some of the drama going on. I think you think of it as sort of like a light and fluffy show, but actually this season there's like nothing light and fluffy about it. And it actually talks on some of the stuff we're talking about with some of the like toxic masculinity and men and showing emotions and feelings and therapy. So it's got some very current themes for being such a kind of old school boy girl enemies to lovers type of thing. But it is just really fun. The colors are fun, and I say that because their like school uniform is like magenta and navy. So like the boys are walking around, they're like magenta pants and like navy blazers, and the two of them together the chemistry is off the charts. And now there's some rumors like after the first season he broke up with his girlfriend and she broke up with his boyfriend, and then they've been seen together and they clearly have like amazing chemistry together. So it's one of those things where you're like, are they together in real life? Are they not? Of course, the fans,
life.
right?
Or life
And of
is
course you're
imitating
like,
art.
or are they just trying to play it up, which I don't care. I am there for it. But it is just, I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for something to watch over the holidays. You've got some extra time. It's a fast watch, and very, very good.
Did you say is it set in current time?
It's set in current time.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very fun.
Yep.
Cool.
And what's confusing about it a little bit is it's set in England,
Okay.
but it's German.
Oh.
So like they speak German.
Yeah.
And then, but then they keep going into like Boston, or not Boston, London, Boston. They keep going into like London, and I'm like, where? So I thought it was actually set in Germany, and then they somehow just kept going into London.
Yeah.
But I was like, when I read the description of the book, I'm like, oh no, it's supposed to be set in England.
Okay.
So, but I guess the books are German, so she's just a German author.
Oh, so it's based on book. Okay.
Yes, a trilogy. So, and the guy in it, he just got signed for another book to movie adaptation. And I suspect, based on his acting and based on his like amazingly good looks, that this will be the start of his career. Like he will just keep going because he is a treat for the eyes. Overall, it's it does get a little bit sexually explicit towards the end, and I only say that because if someone was like, I'm gonna watch with my teenager, things like that, a lot of it's okay, but there's a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, and then it does get pretty sexually explicit at like last episode. So yeah,
to know. Fun.
Lauren, what about you?
So I am going, I'm going to do a little recommendation specific for the holidays, if you will, because I know there's a lot of controversy about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. That being said, I've used it in 2 ways recently. And I think this is well timed, which is why I'm sort of bringing it as my favorite. So one is to ask it to decorate your fill in the blank, but I used it this fall to decorate my front porch. And you just take like a bare picture of your front porch and then say like, decorate my front porch for fall. I did the same thing for Christmas, and it's adorable what they show. So like a really specific prompt like that, I find use as somebody that I love decorating. I really love homemaking and all the aspects surrounding it. But sometimes it's like helpful to have some fresh ideas. So I really like it for that. And then the other way that we used it recently that worked out better than I could have imagined, we really struggled scheduling our family photos this fall with our photographer. We're both in a phase of life where she's got kids in sports and travel and all of those things, as did I this fall, and we just could not make it work. So I asked ChatGPT to give me tools and tips for taking family photos with my specific iPhone model. And then we did like colors. I like put in the colors that the boys had picked for their like quarter zips and whatever. I even put in my dress from Loft. I like linked it, and it like helped like do our whole color scheme. And then it gave me prompts for how to walk somebody through using my my camera. And my mom took our photos last weekend when we were up at the lake together, and they turned out so good. So it was just like a really fun way of using a tool that, again, I think we could probably, maybe in the new year, we'll do a full episode on how, Americans are getting dumber and AI and technology and how it really is not great for critical thinking skills, which I totally agree. But for something like this, I enjoyed it so much. And for like something that would have been really stressful for me, I love documenting our family every year and family photos. That's why we do it. And we just couldn't figure out our schedules. And so we kind of shifted lanes. And my mom, as a completely novice photographer who's never done anything like this before, like knocked it out of the park. We have great pictures, and it accomplished the goal of documenting our year together, right? The age and stage the kids are at and things like that. And the prompts were super easy to follow, and it like actually was successful. So ChatGPT, if you're around this weekend and decorating your porch and want like a new fresh idea or something like that, or family photos if you haven't done them yet. So highly recommend.
Well, Laura, you also had shown us that you took a picture of your like
living
room that you were wanting to repaint.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
happening
put in
right
the
now
paint
too.
color.
Yeah.
And it literally showed that room with that paint color, which is a game changer.
So thank you for reminding me of that, because I used the Paint Place website and it wasn't nearly as good. Yes, it wasn't. That was another way in which like we had come up with a couple colors, but to be able to put them on the palette and the ChatGPT photo was way better. And you did the same thing with your room as well, Wilhelmina, and it looked amazing.
And I was like,
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So ChatGPT for the holidays.
I think you should actually, when you do like do the post, I think you should do one of your pictures of like your the before and then what it gave you, so that people can see. Because when you sent it to us, I was like, oh, you actually just take a picture and then you
Yeah, I will.
That's a good idea.
So fun use of it. And I think very low in the controversy level of utilizing AI.
Pros and cons, and this is
for what it's worth. I know.
Yeah. I think, the decorating thing, I mean, it makes it specific to your space, because sometimes you look online, but also like a lot of times I feel like when I wasn't on the internet all the time, and there wasn't all these posts, and I wasn't following all these people, it was actually much easier for me to like come up with ideas and be creative. And I feel like there's just so much that I feel like I don't do anything, because I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
It kind of gives you, it really narrows it in a way that I'm like, oh wait, I can do that. Right.
Yeah. So I do like that, because sometimes I just feel so overwhelmed, and hence me having a home we've been living in since 2019, and still there's walls that are bare because I can't.
It is overwhelming. And some people have that brain, but like, I think this is a nice tool for if you feel like I just need to make a decision here and I want a little guidance.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What about you, Terry?
Mine is I guess a gift idea or just an idea for kids. The 3D pens, the 3D printer pens. So there's 3D printers, which, are those box-like things you can print. But then there's pens that you insert I should have grabbed my kids, a little thin cartridge of color, of
filament.
Ink. Yeah, filament. And my oldest, who's 10, got one. I think they're about $50, $45-$50. And he loves it. So he has created all sorts of random things. And you do have to get the hang of it, because it just outputs.
Yeah.
And he does it on a paper plate and then creates it. But it has been a lot of fun for him, a good time killer. My 8-year-old, his little brother, really wants one now. So I think if you are looking for a cool birthday gift idea for your kid's buddy, or a Christmas gift idea, or just something that's new and sort of innovative that you think your kid will get into. My 10-year-old loves art and is really into that. My 8-year-old, not so much, but he still really wants one. So I think it would appeal to kids, whether they're into art and creative or not. So 3D pen.
That's awesome.
Where did you get it from?
I think he got it at Target. My mom got it for him.
I've seen them on Amazon.
Yeah, I think
there's a couple different brands.
On Amazon, and they're usually about $45-$50.
Okay.
And then you can get refills, and there's little carrying cases you can get for them, so you can bring it places. And again, the output is not gorgeous. I mean, it's like whatever, but it's very hours of entertainment and very user friendly. He has not needed any adult help to figure it out and how to put the filaments or whatever it is, the cartridges in. He's just able to like go and do it, and we don't have to help, which is
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm always like, because Eb's birthday is December 1st and then Christmas. And I'm always like struggling to like think of what else to get in that very small period of time. So I love that.
I'm
actually like that.
Griffin, December 20th, and then Christmas. We actually give him his main gift for Christmas or for birthday in July or June for his half birthday, because we were like, I can't give him all his gifts for the entire year in the span
5 days.
of 5 days.
5 days.
I mean, I'm working with like 20.
I know you're not. It's so much better.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get her to do experiences. We're like, where would you like to go? Like, I was traumatized by the birthday party, so we're skipping it this year. I'm like, we'll do one next year when it's your 10th birthday and it's special, because I feel I'm still recovering from the last birthday party.
Well, how about you, Vanessa? What's your fave?
So I also have a gift idea, since this will be airing like not a couple weeks before Christmas and the holidays. So I got this for my sister a couple years ago, and then she did it for my niece last year. So I thought, this is a really good one. So especially like we're talking about, girls, young adults, teens today. So this is good for that group, but also if you know someone who's like a makeup lover, or just, beauty products in general. And it's to do a beauty product subscription. So she did one for me for Birchbox, and then she did one for my niece using Ipsy last year. And so it sends you sometimes full size, sometimes sample sizes. So it can depending on what the product is. And then you can select if you wanted more makeup, more skincare, hair care. So it's not just makeup. It's just that whole kind of just genre in general. So they'll send you like shampoo or like makeup setting spray or perfume. So it can be the full range. And so I just think it's such a great idea. So you can set it up. So Birchbox is nice because you can do like prepay for 3 months. So you can send the gift for like, that's for 3 months. The person will receive, basically 3 boxes of, a mix of things. Or you can do 12 months prepaid. And then some of them will just do it monthly. But the problem with that, my sister was telling me, because she was the one who came up with this idea, is that you have to then remember to cancel it if you don't do a prepaid one. So you can kind of do it for however much time you want. But I just thought it's so fun because it's kind of like you're getting a little gift once a month, so it's like the gift that keeps on giving. So I thought that was just a really good gift to give someone. So if you're struggling with ideas, they do ask you a couple questions in the beginning. I actually went on Birchbox and at Ipsy's just to see what type of questions. So it's like hair color, eye color. It'll ask you like, what do you want more of or less of? So I'm assuming if you're doing this for someone else, you can just say you can keep it kind of neutral. If you're like, I'm not really sure what they like, you can just pick like kind of some neutral responses. But I thought that was such a great gift. I loved getting it. And I just loved how each month I got something different. And then my niece got it last year, and then she was actually like sharing some of the stuff with me. She's like, oh, do you want some of the stuff? And I was like, oh, you got one of these too. So my sister's a good gift giver. So I'm stealing her idea. So if you're looking for something, you can do one of these subscriptions for someone that you need to buy a gift for.
I love that.
I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. Super fun. All right. So we are going to be talking about girls today. So what are the things that girls are experiencing? And most importantly, how can we support them? So I thought it'd be good for us to kind of start off with what are some of the things that girls are experiencing? And I say girls, I mean young girls, teens, and also young adults. And some of this I think leaks into like even our age group too. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of start there. Some of the things that I thought of we've talked a little bit about, but I think it would be helpful to kind of lump them together. So we're saying like, here's all the things that girls experience. And so some of these things are friendship dynamics, right? We know that there can be a lot of friend drama, especially in certain age groups, right? There's a lot of body image stuff like on social media. There's also a rise in online misogyny, which I think we talked a little bit about that when we talked about the boys last time. We know that mental health challenges for girls are there for a lot of different reasons, which we can get into. Other themes that you all have either heard girls talking about, this could be patients, this can be family members, young adults, women, things that they're experiencing, or even just diving into some of these topics.
I think fitting in general is huge.
Another one, yeah.
And so whether that's like you talked about the friendship dynamics, if it's relational aggression that shows up sometimes as early as age 8 or 9 in terms of how girls navigate friendships and peer groups. Relational aggression is more covert. It is usually housed in exclusion and inviting certain girls or kids to your birthday party versus not, sleepovers, who's riding with who, if you're part of the group chat or not, on and on. Anyone who has been around girls, if you make it to 5th or 6th grade and it hasn't started yet, you're probably lucky because it will definitely show up. It can be a pretty big source of stress. But I think fitting in ebbs and flows and evolves as you move through adolescence. And so whether that's using social media to fit in and figuring out who you are, what your brand is, if you're, there's different labels we have now for what kind of girl you are. I'm sure you guys have heard, are you a pick me girl? So that's something I hear a lot in the therapy world. I do not as much anymore, but I still do. I carry a small caseload of teen girls and young women. So they talk about, are you a pick me girl? Are you a basic girl? What do you use a Stanley Cup or not? How do you identify yourself? And then that goes all the way up to, I think, for women as they progress into early adulthood and adulthood, do you have a mom group to fit in with? Do you fit in with the other moms at your kid's school? Are you a dance mom? Are you a sports mom? I came from a out-of-town lacrosse tournament over the weekend, and 4 of the moms had custom-made ski hats with their kids' lacrosse number and glitter on the band. And my husband had warned me. He said, get ready. I hadn't been to one of these tournaments yet. I just couldn't make it until this past weekend. And it was a scene. in terms of how you're fitting in and who you align with. And now, are you a trad wife? Meaning, are you a traditional wife? What type of wife are you? So I think in general, across the lifespan, women and girls are trying to figure out where they fit in and who they are and what points of reference do they use to inform that.
Well, and I think we're saying some of these concepts, and I actually think we should explain what some of these are. Because like when I first heard trad wife, I was like, what is that exactly? I kind of like knew it when I saw it, but I was like, what's the actual like definition of it? And then the pick me girl, like also sort of like these concepts that are being thrown out there, but like what are they and how do they actually show up in these like in the lives of like girls and adults? And trad wife, of course, is just now like traditional, like going back to like super traditional, like I'm going to stay at home. My husband's going to work. I'm going to cook. I'm going to do all the childcare, just very, very traditional. But
I think it's expanded. It's even more than traditional. It's like, I'm going to make my own gum. Like you've heard of the one online and she's like, I mean, it's like not even my own cookies for the kids when they get home. It's like, make my own gum, make my own like deodorant and soap. Like, I mean, even like a label like that, there's a lot behind it, right?
It's a Little House on the Prairies.
Churn my own
Super
butter.
Drive. Yes. There's a lot there. It's not as easy. I mean, I think there is sort of like this, like, oh gosh, what's the word? Like simplicity to the term, but it really, I mean, they're doing a whole lot.
When I first heard it, I thought it was trade wife. My eyes read it quickly, and I thought it was women who were married to traders, financial traders.
Trade,
like
wives.
The stock exchange.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder.
Sense. They work a lot. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Terry,
and that's why I wanted to define it, because I was like, I feel like you might have said it first, and I was like, what is that? I had to like, what is?
There's a whole lot behind it.
Yes.
So I think, Terry, you made a good point about how it starts in early childhood for girls, and it kind of goes on through even into adulthood. And I know for me personally, like some of the things that you said that adult women are experiencing, I know that I experience that. And this is coming from someone who feels pretty confident in who they are and who, you know, like we're psychologists, so we get, you know, certain aspects I think other people don't. And we have a fully developed brain, and it can be challenging. So imagine how young girls are feeling trying to navigate these social groups and these things that are happening to them, and even teens and even young adults. And so I do think that it's something that we should all be aware of, right? Because it's happening. It continues to happen. And in those early stages, I think that can be really kind of defining for a girl, right? How you navigate those experiences and what you're being told by presumably your parents about these situations. And I know that I'm constantly, you know, Ev comes home and she tells me something, and I'm always like, okay, like, let's talk about this. Like, let's, you know, learn from this. And you said third grade. And actually for her last year, we had some situations, some social stuff, and she was in second grade. And I was like, how is this happening already? And she's just such a, like, she's still like such a kid. Like, she's just very like into like creative play. She's very imaginative. Like, she's on the playground and she's playing, like, it's all imaginative play, you know. And then, you know, she's telling me that there's girls walking around talking about like skincare and stuff that like
fridges in their rooms.
And she's just like, what, you know, and then they're doing all this mean girl stuff. And some of it I think she got and she gets, and some of it I think just flies right over her head. She has no idea like what is happening. And I'm always like, do I explain to her what this is? Or, you know, so she's ready for the next time, or do I just let her live in her little bliss world of not knowing what this is yet? Right. And just being unaware of it. So I think it's really hard.
So I did a talk for actually this exact same age, the young elementary school kids this last spring, about mean girl behavior. And I do think it's really helpful. Two things that from the feedback from moms that attended the talk, and it was moms. It was open to all parents, but it was 100% moms. But the feedback that we received from moms that, attended the talk were two things. One, it was really helpful for them to understand the definition of mean girl behavior in psychology terms, which is exactly what Terry described earlier, relational aggression. And so it's all through talk. They don't go on the playground and beat each other up and then it's over with. So that physical aggression is over and done with pretty quickly. And there are advantages and disadvantages to that. But relational aggression is so much more subtle. And so mean girl behavior is a really nice way, I think, to encompass it for most people. When they hear the term, they think they know what they're hearing. But then the feedback from the moms was it's really helpful to understand that that's a type of communication or behavior that's really specific to girls and their interactions. And the second thing, and it kind of goes along what you were saying, Vanessa, about do I talk to her about it? Do I explain it? Do I try to educate her? The second thing that from doing research prior to the talk and really then, again, getting feedback from the moms that was very helpful was to really meet the child where they're at. And so we don't need to be describing concepts to girls that aren't ready to understand the concept. We don't need to be sort of aging them up in their education. We can just meet them where they're at, and whatever the situation is in that moment, helping them navigate that situation, not doing it for them, not being the Zamboni parent that just sort of clears all conflict out of the way for them, but helping them navigate it. And for girls, again, I think specific to girls, which makes it a little bit more challenging, is the navigation is through communication, which is tough because they're little, they're young. And so helping them navigate it where they're at developmentally as being a really helpful, let them come to you and then you can respond accordingly versus kind of overdoing it and then overwhelming them in the process.
And two things I would add to that is saying, what do you think of that? Always. Anytime your kids bring stuff to you.
Critical thinking.
Right. Putting it back on them, like, oh, that's interesting. What do you think about that? Or what do you know? Do you wonder about that? Do you have any questions about that in terms of meeting them where they're at? And then the other question to start to introduce is this idea of being popular versus being powerful when it comes to pure relationships, and explaining to your kids, both girls and boys, but obviously this comes up way more with girls, the difference between the two. Being popular is being well-liked, and being powerful is that people are remaining your friend because they don't want to be excluded and be left out. And the goal actually isn't to be either. There is a third option, which is to be friendly and trustworthy, but not easily pushed around. And if you can give kids being authentic, and if you can give kids some of that language to have in the back of their head and give them some of those breadcrumbs, friendly and trustworthy, but not easily pushed around, what does that actually look like in terms of how you say to your friends, if you hear about a sleepover you weren't included in, or you don't know what's going to happen when you go to play practice because they don't know if they want you to come or not, or if you're going to be included.
Yes, exactly. And I think that being able to, if they come to you with like something that they're dealing with, or I feel like I need to do this or that, along with that critical thinking is sort of like identifying, is this an internal thing that you're kind of working through? And then let's explore that, versus an external expectation. Like,
do you even want to do that thing they're doing that you were left out of? Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So I think that helps them easily categorize it in terms of like, okay, this is internal versus external. And then you can kind of choose which direction and how to talk about it from there.
Yeah.
Because if it's something they don't actually even really want to do, then that's a different conversation than, no, I really do, but I wasn't invited, or this or that. Yeah. This is just an interesting, as we're talking about this, and when we talked about the trad wife and some of that going on. The other day I was at a talent show, elementary talent show. And did I talk to you guys about this? What I saw so with this, they have the Golden Eagles, which are the like girl cheerleaders. And so it's like, so they do performances. So usually they're always in the talent show because like they'll just put on like a dance from their whatever. So when my daughter was in 6th grade and in elementary, like I don't even know anyone that was, maybe like 1 or 2 girls were in the Golden Eagles, like that I knew about, but like it wasn't like a thing. Okay. So Maddie now is in 7th grade. When we saw this, every grade had a Golden Eagles performance. You got to the kindergarten and the stage was full.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to 1st grade, pretty full. 2nd grade, pretty full. All of a sudden, around 4th and 5th, it dropped off. And I was like, so is this dropping off because of they've got other things going on? Or is this a shift of what we're seeing? Because it really was not a thing when Maddie was younger. And is this going along with sort of this, like, the cheerleader? Think about the cheerleader, like what the cheerleader is and, you know, all of that. It's surprising that we're seeing more and more and more of this. And I was like, is this just my area? Is this part of like the more traditional, like teaching girls to be cheerleaders and doing this? Or is it just part of that class dynamic? It made me question just my own critical thinking. Like, is this something more a bigger thing? Or is this just sort of like, oh, my friend's doing Golden Eagles, so I want to do Golden Eagles. And then everyone's kind of doing it from there. I don't know. I was like wondering, I was going to throw it out there in our text thread to be like, what do you guys think about this? And does it have anything to do with like gender expectations?
So there's more Golden Eagles or less Golden Eagles as time goes on?
More.
Okay, that was
there's
not
more
clear.
than there used to be. Okay.
So
I know, I get it.
So
there's more Golden Eagles
it's now a
Yes.
much more popular thing.
Right. This is
And
like,
like it really wasn't a thing.
this is like out of a Berenstain Bears book or something.
I will tell you, actually, I've got some cheerleaders in my life, and I think they could potentially take offense to the idea that it is like a girly traditional thing. They take this as a competitive sport. And
No,
I wonder if
what
there's
kind of cheer you're doing.
They're not doing that. They are cheering for the football and they are not
do
doing
both. Well, at least in our community, they do both. So they cheer for football and basketball, but then all winter long, it's competitive cheer. And they're at competitions every single weekend doing the dance that you saw versus other schools that also have a dance and they have a skills portion and things like that. And these girls, so my cousin's daughter is on varsity cheer and she is in training all year long, like with a physical trainer and things like that. So, I guess what I would venture to guess is that it's a new activity and opportunity for girls to be involved in. And I actually perceive that in a really positive way. I don't think it's the cheer of old. I don't think it's the cheer from 30 years ago. I really think that this is viewed as a really strong athletic endeavor. And I think, so maybe not in your community, but I think that's why we see more.
I thought cheerleading had moved to that, right? that competitive,
it has where we're
like
at.
Bring it on.
Yep.
Like we are doing the cheer so I had kind of been like, yes, cheer is like huge. But what I felt like I was seeing was more of the traditional, but then again, maybe I just don't know what's going on in the background and things like that, where they're going. Because I was like, that's where I guess I was confused. Because I was like, this is looking like it's the traditional, but maybe it's just one aspect of it. Yeah. I just was like surprised to see the numbers shift so much in the span of like,
I also think there's a lot of zeitgeist in communities of what is popular and what is sort of the norm for that particular region. So I live in an area where baseball is huge for boys, softball also for girls, but the local high school always has a top tier baseball team and it's baseball, travel baseball. Yeah. And that is just pervasive. And my kids played a little bit of t-ball and now they're doing other sports and activities. And so I think I talk to friends from other communities and they're like, oh, there is baseball, but football's really big or basketball's really big.
Sure, it's lacrosse and field hockey.
Yes.
Football's a big thing.
Yes. Yeah. So I do think it's very much sort of regional, what hits and what tracks. But I do think that brings up a valid point that if you have daughters, especially who are trying to find their place and find their people and try different activities, what are they going to gravitate towards? Well, what are all their peers doing or what's right? What's most pervasive in front of their face all the time might be the activities they select. But I do think I don't think I know participating in physical activities is such a protective factor for girls.
It's huge
in terms of their self-esteem, eating disorders,
Absolutely.
substance use. It's right up there with regular family meals multiple times a week.
Yep.
If you want to buffer
And
your daughters.
Yeah.
That's
And I
it.
found that like when there's social stuff at school, so a lot of my patients who come in, you know, I don't do therapy, but I do assessment. And what I'm hearing from a lot of the girls, if they have social issues at school, is that the ones who are in different sports activities, they'll say, oh, my cheer friends, my soccer friends. So it gives them an opportunity outside of the school setting to have social connections and have friendships, especially when there's issues at school, right? When there's,
It's
for whatever reason,
incredibly
there's a lot of reasons why.
protective.
Yeah, that they have this group of friends that they can still, you know, like they feel like they have friends and they feel like part of it. So I think that that's another reason why it's so important, you know, to find opportunities for your child to join something. And it doesn't even have, I don't even think it necessarily has to be sports. I mean, we know that there are definite benefits from physical activity, but also just in general, I think that there's benefits from being part of something right outside of school. And that's one of the things I'm always telling Ev. I was like, it's important, like, for you to have your friends at school, but also you can have friends outside of school. And isn't that nice that you can then have this kind of variety of friends? But you know, it can be hard if your kid's not sporty. Like, you know, my child, we tried soccer forever, and it was just like, okay, it's a hard no, we're not doing that. And then she watched Dancing with Stars, and now she's doing ballroom dancing, which it's not a team thing, really,
right?
You know. And so she's thinking about doing cheer. So my niece actually did competitive cheer, and it's very intensive.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, you sure you want to do this? Like, it's because she did gymnastics before, and it was very intensive, and there was a team aspect to it. And we were actually disappointed, not because we care what she does, but because she lost that team experience by leaving gymnastics. So we're trying to get her to pick whatever it is. We don't care if you're good at it.
Cheer's great for that.
So
because my friend, her daughter was also looking for something, and because she's in second grade, she joined the Golden Eagles, and it was like. And I know my friend was like, I know the name is just like, I'm sorry.
We have an Eagles team around here. Yeah. I'm going to make it kind of cutesy.
I'm just going to laugh every time. I'm sorry.
And I know my friend was a little bit like, oh no, she's doing cheer because she had been in like lots of different sports for herself. But like then the first like game and her daughter was doing it, and it was like clear that this was her thing. Like she just was so into it. She loved it. Her friends were in it. And it was like, there it is. So it's sort of like, Vanessa, if that's what she wants to do, it's like, try it out. Try it out.
But
like,
and that's casting. And that's one of the things about, I was just gonna say, that was one of the things that, you know, I was reading about, like how you can help girls is build their confidence, is really like encouraging them to try things, to try new things, whether, and it doesn't have to turn out right. And so that's another thing. It's like making sure that they know that the outcome doesn't matter as long as you're trying your best, you're having fun, you know, that sort of thing can really just help them build that confidence and that self-esteem that we know is so important for girls, especially in today's age with all the stuff that they're kind of being bombarded with. We've kind of focused on like the social friendship stuff, but there's lots of other things that we know are impacting, you know, how girls are you know, functioning, the things that are impacting them now. It's not just the social stuff. So I don't know if you guys want to get into any of that other stuff.
Well, what are you referring to?
Yeah. So, I mean, but speaking of trad wife, you know, there's a lot of, you know, negative rhetoric kind of going on. You know, you hear the word misogyny. It's huge on social media right now. And I think girls are really being impacted. There was that New York Times article. What was it titled? Did women ruin the workforce?
Yes.
You know, and I think all of this stuff that we're seeing on social media really impacts, like there's already things that they're dealing with just on a very like social, like, right. We're dealing with the social stuff in our friend group. And then as now you have kind of this additional kind of outside noise. And I don't think it's new. I just think it's enhanced because of social media and what
I think it's enhanced, but I also think it's interesting because I think adults are being exposed to it and some young women, depending on their specific algorithm. But then I think like our kids, their ages, I don't think they have any exposure to that. So I think it's how do parents balance, okay, there is this noise, especially in the social media realm, but my kids aren't actually being exposed to that. But people who could have influence on their lives could be exposed to that, right? Future employers, future boyfriends, girlfriends, classmates, teammates, etc. So how do you balance some of that? because the stuff we're being exposed to is not what our kids are being exposed to.
Right.
And so having
but I think teens are, and young adults are.
I think depending on their algorithm. When I
was just going to say, I don't see any of that stuff because I see Christmas trees. And
well, I do. I think,
and that's why what we talked about for our last episode with boys is that they created the fake profile.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And so I don't even know that you need to be necessarily searching for things. Right. We know that there's algorithms that exist and these things are out there. But, even just going back to the New York Times, like that, that it's definitely out there, and it's not just grown adults who are reading that. There's young women who are in their early 20s. I'm sure 19-year-olds saw that, 18-year-olds. And how is that affecting their confidence?
I wish 18-year-olds were reading the New York Times.
I was just going to say,
I don't mean the New York Times, but on social media, it ran around, right?
But
like
you got to be careful of the headlines. There was a lot more to that than just the headline, right? And I think that's the problem. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about the headlines that people are seeing, and then they're going by, and like how that gets
and then it just
actual
gets
critical thinking when you're actually reading something like that, and they're looking at the history of feminism and things like that. I mean, that's what that like it. I think that the way in which you stop the things that we don't want to have happen is you don't engage in the things that you don't agree with, and that you don't like. The more you engage, the more you're going to feel like that is the world.
Right.
Well, the more you disengage and you say, I'm not teaching those things to my kids. These aren't my values. And you take that, what you feel like is this social media world where everything's out there right now and it's so scary. You just take it all away and you bring it back to like your nuclear, the circle around you and what you're exposing yourself to, what people you're involving in your life on a day-to-day basis, and what you're exposing your kids to. And on a micro level, that's how we all get rid of this, is if we all just kind of go back to the basics and focus on, Terry said, family dinners, like things like that.
Well, I also think in encouraging critical thinking, I think.
I was just, that's what I was going to say.
Right.
Like not we as adults can, we as adults can do exactly what you say. I'm thinking of the young girl who's impressionable, right? The young adult, the teen who's impressionable, who is, maybe seeing some of these things, right? And how do we teach them how to?
I think it's less direct, explicit teaching and lecturing and didactic. Hey, I know you saw this, but you shouldn't believe that. I think it's more about encouraging critical thinking. What do you think of that? I have thoughts, but let me hear yours first through that modeling. But then also as parents, we almost need to have a menu of protective factors to try to buffer the risk factors, because that type of direct social media exposure is high up on the risk factor list, right? Just engagement in social media in terms of higher rates of eating disorders, risky sexual promiscuous behaviors, other types of risky behaviors, gambling. How do you perceive that misogyny you're being exposed to online? So we need to buffer and sort of counterbalance that with protective factors. And I think some of those, in addition to social connectedness, family meals, school connectedness is a huge protective factor. If kids feel like they belong at their particular school and they have a place in their school. So if your kid's current school is not a good fit, depending on what their peers are, how their male peers could be interacting with them, you're going to need to rethink if the school is a good fit, because school connectedness is a major protective factor. I also think equipping young women with refusal skills. So that is refusal skills for substances, for how males or peers might interact if they are soliciting nudes, naked pictures, and sexting, which happens a lot among teen girls.
For boys too, by the way.
And for boys, right. So how do you equip them with refusal skills? If someone asks you for an inappropriate picture and makes a threat if you don't send it to them, because that's very commonplace for teen girls right now. How do you empower them and equip them with a script and refusal skills about how to turn that down so they don't engage in some type of inappropriate sexting?
And not relying on social media to educate them.
Well,
so maybe when you said that help menu is like, that needs to go to the top of the help menu too, is like, there's got to be so much else in your life going on that you recognize that social media can be a part that I would put under, hopefully, entertainment for somebody, right? And then there's so many other things that child, that young adult is engaged with, that those are the protective factors, because social media isn't running their life.
But I think part of this goes back to like parenting, because I know when clients come in, I'm like, how much screen time? That's like a question that I've been like, how much screen time is your child getting? We think, the four of us, that like all the parents are on board with like too much screen time watching social. I think we are in the minority.
They can say they are, and then in practice, yes.
Thank you. We are in the minority, because when I tell people, I'm like, when I'm talking about like what my child does, like as far as like screen time, social media, I can tell that people are like, what? And when I ask them, I usually get like it's probably more than they should, So this is my concern, is that I don't know that all the parents are on board with really equipping their kids to know how to consume, what's on social media. And so that it goes back to, parents, and not just being like, well, I told them until they were 13 and now I've kind of just let it go. It's like still continuing to have these conversations with them as adolescents and even as young adults, because I don't think that they're all prepared. I don't think that enough parents are preparing their kids for what they're being exposed to online.
Well, and we're talking about online and social media, but Vanessa, you sent us that article that was actually written by a high school student and noting what she's seeing in the high school.
Chill girl.
Yeah, the return of the chill girl.
Yeah.
And since, I guess, I think it's since Trump's first election or first presidency, that they've seen like there's a shift where girls who maybe once were outspoken and like if someone said something offensive or said something, they would speak up. And now they're seeing more of these girls that just, if someone makes an inappropriate comment or joke or whatever, now they just kind of go along with it. Like, and so they're saying like
chill is being more attractive.
Being chill.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they are worried about this, like if they speak up, they're just going to get some blowback from other people. Like, you can't take a joke. You're right. Just whatever. And so they're seeing this, which is, a little bit disturbing to hear, I think. And it makes me think, when I read that article, it made me think of Gone Girl. Do you guys remember the book and the movie? And the main female character talked about how she always tried to be, I think she called it the cool girl, but basically she just completely made her personality to go along with anything her partner wanted. So Smart wants to go until she just killed everyone. Yeah. Right. Which is what happens. Right. No, just kidding.
Right.
So, but that's what I thought of, is like, you just make yourself appealing by being what you think others want you to be.
And there's so many options for people to look at to do that, if that's the route. So there's so many options of, again, am I the chill girl? Am I the pick me girl? Which, for people to know what that is, it's a term I first heard from a teenage client, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. And I've had teenagers describe it to me a variety of ways, but it's a version, it's sort of a hybrid of what we're describing, where a girl tries to come off to others as very chill and nonchalant, but they secretly want a lot of attention and are hoping that you will get picked, aka pick me, I hope you pick me. I'm actually the most attractive. I still don't totally get my head around it, because I've heard it defined. I've had multiple different teenage girls try to define it for me, and no one's super clear on it.
So I think that Taylor Swift lyric, like, she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts, like she's whatever, I'm on the bleachers, is like a very good snippet of like what you just described.
Right.
Like
pick me.
I'm just wearing t-shirts and like chill, like pick me. Like,
but I think it comes back to people, teens especially, and girls, they need to more accurately identify who they are and what they want, back to values, like Lauren was talking about. Yes. What do they value? Yes. Who are they? Only they can define that. One thing I thought about too, because anxiety is just so pervasive across, like everybody has. I was talking to a colleague of mine who's 75, who we refer to each other often. And she said, everybody has anxiety. It used to be, I wonder if someone has anxiety. She goes, that is baseline across the board. Everybody who shows up at a minimum has anxiety. It's just a part of the human condition, and it's so pervasive. And I think
how much is it interfering is now the question.
Right.
Not
How is it
being
impacting your function?
how's it impacting?
Right.
And I think we need to teach young people, girls especially, but young people across the board,
Yes.
of how to perceive stress and anxiety. It is not something
Yes.
to eliminate. It
Right.
is
Yes.
something to manage. And
It
we
can
need
be
to
anxious
teach.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to teach young people how to manage their personal alarm system and what to recognize, because as they're figuring out who they are and what they value and what they're into and what their interests are and how to navigate friendships and their different circles and gymnastics friends and dance friends and school friends, it's also, there's so much anxiety and stress embedded in all of those scenarios that they need guidance on how to figure out, what is my alarm system telling me? What is normal? What is healthy anxiety? What is unhealthy anxiety? How do I manage that amidst all of this? Because anxiety is just so pervasive.
Right.
Well, doesn't Lisa D'Amour have that distress is not dysfunction?
Right.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. It's teaching them
So-
that they can function with anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety is not a reason to close yourself off from the world and or an
Yes.
excuse for X, Y, or Z.
Or try to change who you are and what you're
Right.
into and what you like.
I
There's
often
also-
use the example from Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts
I
about
love this. I do too.
So I use
We've
this
talked
in
about
therapy.
this before. We
Yes.
both use it in therapy.
Yes,
I love this.
what egg does she like? And Richard Gere, the journalist, is figuring out that every single one of her exes says she likes her eggs a different way. And the bottom line is she doesn't know who she is. She transforms herself into the hiking outdoorsy girl for one guy, and then the buttoned up
Is that Julia
businesswoman
Roberts
for another guy.
Yes.
I don't
Julia
like
Roberts.
her, so
Richard Gere.
I avoid her.
Well, Richard Gere is in it as well. He's the journalist in it, and he's the one that helps her to realize you like 8 different what kind of eggs do you like, and she can't
Yes.
answer the question. And so there's a really powerful scene that I tell clients to watch of she's sitting down at a table and she's trying every single different kind of egg to figure out, and so I utilize this when we have a values conversation in session about it's figuring out how you like your eggs. It's figuring out who do I want to be. And Vanessa is correct. Parents are the curators of that. And we only have so long, and we can't tell people how to parent. All we can do is, again, that's why I always talk about kind of bringing it back to your inner circle of figuring out what we want to instill in our kids and who we want to help our kids surround themselves by, so that as they're figuring out how they like their eggs, so to speak, they're making good choices for themselves and for their own health. Because there are plenty of people out there that don't realize sort of the wild, wild west of social media and how that is really raising a generation that doesn't have any sense of their values. So.
And, going back to the anxiety thing, not only being okay, I have anxiety and I feel, but also realizing that you can have anxiety and not have an anxiety disorder, right? It's an emotion that you can feel this emotion, right? Yeah, it's emotion that you can feel, but doesn't mean necessarily that you have a disorder. But there are there's just really high rates right now of actual people. I think it's 20% of 12 to 17-year-olds. It's not 20% of 12 to 17-year-olds meet criteria for an anxiety disorder. So there is a lot of anxiety, and a lot of this is driven by all the things that we've talked about today, the social media aspect anyway. So definitely need to keep teaching about feelings, how we process them, how we experience them, and how we deal with them. Any other thoughts about today's topic? Any other recommendations, things that we want to be telling girls? Any other thoughts?
The only other thing I would add to, as a parent, when you're considering supporting your kids as they navigate peer relationships, is kids really just need 1 to 2 good friends. They don't need to be part of a large group.
That's a good one. I love that.
Groups are stressful. Yes. Anytime you get more than 3, 4, 5 is huge. That's a big group, and kids love to have groups even bigger than that. But your kids having 1 to 2 solid friends.
Yep.
Like Vanessa mentioned, having wide circles, having multiple circles of friends can be very helpful in terms of protective factors for your kids. So don't stress if they're not in a group. It might serve them better if they just have a couple good, solid buddies.
Well, and I think it's okay if your daughter comes to you and she has 1 or 2 close friends, but expresses that she feels bad. She doesn't have, this. It's okay for you to just know that and let her talk about how she feels and kind of validate that, but also sort of just as a parent know, like, she's going to be okay. You don't have to like
yes.
tell her,
Don't,
like,
you don't have
it's
to
okay,
tell her,
you're going to be fine.
The research says you're fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll be
Don't
fine.
say that.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, don't say that
Yes,
because they're
do
they
not
won't
say that.
validate.
Yeah.
Not gonna believe
Do
it.
not
You'll be
say
like,
that.
Of course, you're
I
saying
try that all the time with my kids. They're like, whatever, mom.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what do you know?
Yeah.
The eye roll comes out real
Yeah.
quick.
Dummy. Right.
Your job.
We know, mom.
I know. I always would tell Ev, I'd be like, I was reading this thing. So now when I'm like, oh, I saw this thing, she's like, oh.
I know.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Happens
You know?
real quick.
What did you read now? What did you see now? What did you hear? I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So just a couple of kind of housekeeping things. This is actually our last episode before we take a nice long winter break. So we will be back on January 9th with a new season. So we'll be back on January 9th. So we'll take a little break. So this will give you some time to catch up on any episodes that you've missed. But if you're wondering where we are, we're just enjoying the holidays. All right. Thank you all for joining us on the Shrink Down.